views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are the content creator's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Essex County College. The material and information presented here is for entertainment and informative purposes only. It should not be considered as professional advice or a substitute for seeking professional guidance.
What's good, y'all? This is me, Jon Inahuazo, and welcome back to another episode of LONER. So I'm already feeling the pain, of course, of headphones. And so in this episode, I will not be wearing any headphones, of course. And so you're going to be seeing the difference on which sound you prefer. So this is still an experimental show where I'm talking about some different topics every week. Hopefully, of course, I can handle my voice for like another 20 minutes. So today, of course, it's just a bunch of random topics. So let's just, get straight into it. So today, of course, I'm going to be talking about some clubs because I don't really have anything to talk about this week. So let's talk about the music club. So let's start off with the music club. And supposedly this is going to be from Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2:30 to 4 at the Dasher Student Center at room C08. So if there's one thing, of course, I've learned out of the music club, here's the thing. So there was a video, of course, on the Heartbreak Kids thing, which was an event, of course, associated with the Essex County College's Student Life and Activities Office. So their first song, of course, it was called Loveful from the Cardians. There was an instrument, of course. I think it was an autotune electric guitar. And it was basically a Telecaster. So if I could learn something out of it. So if you're ever going to use a Telecaster, then it's a good idea. Of course, you can also use a Stratocaster, but I feel like you also have to execute, of course, and just learn tones as well. So if you ever hear some clean tones, of course, then prioritize on the clean tones. And then if some like dirty tones and the grunge tones, it's like you'd really just need to really execute how you're gonna propose that. Of course, now you're gonna execute and perform it live with an amplifier. And in that case, it would be like a Line 6 Catalyst, of course. In my home, of course, I own a Boss Katana one, so the 50 Gen 3. So it's a Boss Katana, of course, I currently own. The college, of course, owns a Line 6, so both of these amplifiers, of course, are different. And now, of course, if there's one thing I've learned out of this, if you're ever going to perform live, of course, using electric guitar, then you really have to prioritize pedals. And this is, of course, I actually learned this the hard way, because if you're ever going to be changing tones, if you're ever going to be performing live, then you might as well just like buy some pedals, of course, because if you're going to start a band, pedals, of course, can save you time, of course, and money. Well, not money, of course, but it can save you a lot of time, of course, on the effects. So if you're experimental, of course, then maybe the pedals, of course, can be helpful with you. So maybe, of course, if I can be experimental enough, of course, and if I have a purpose for music club, then I can obviously just join in there. And the reason why I say this is because back in high school, I never had a music club before. But there was music class, of course, or in that case called modern music. I was a keyboardist, of course, behind the club, and it was like a Casio. Nowadays, I'd see it as just inadequate. At my home, of course, I currently use a Roland. So the Go Key is 3, and some MIDI controls, of course. But even then, MIDI controls are completely irrelevant to this. The only thing that's not relevant, of course, is the Alteria products. This is because I currently installed the Alteria Analog Lab Pro, and it unlocks most of the vintage instruments, of course, that you can just prioritize and play. So if you ever want to recreate the vintage instruments, then I highly suggest, of course, to buy Alteria. Or if not, I would also prioritize native instruments, because it's also just one of the best two, of course, that offers the best VSTs and at least as plugins. So if you want to do that, go ahead, of course. But if you're talking about a keyboard, of course, without a MIDI controller, then I don't think, of course, you can ever replicate it, of course, at all. Because I feel like even though then again, I just see it as ironic, of course, because the last time I mentioned that I don't want a MIDI controller yet, I just find the advantage, of course, of MIDI controllers. Even though, of course, you may not be able to play it, of course, on stage, you can always play the vintage instruments, of course, on your computer. But it just depends on the storage as well. So it's like if you don't have any storage, then I feel like there's just no advantage, of course, of using it at all. So you're either left with a Yamaha or a Roland. So if you want to buy a Yamaha, of course, then maybe you'll just enjoy some nice sounds. that sounds from the 90s, but yet it just doesn't sound, or it just sounds more generic, if I would describe it, of course, except for piano. That, of course, I would appreciate. That would, of course, I don't have any preferences as well, and that's another thing I want to talk about as well. That's just another thing I forgot to mention about last week. So last week I mentioned, last week I've already mentioned something about product recommendations. I want to talk more about that. So say that I actually want to buy either an Akai MPC Key 37. That's already a perfect solution since it already involves sampling, some VSTs in there, even though they're limited, and they have 37 keys, which means I can take it anywhere. Now say that you're gaslighting me, of course you want me to buy a MIDI controller like an Akai MPK Mini. Everybody uses that, of course, but I feel like I can really do a lot more than just that. So I feel if I just buy that, of course, then I just see it myself as a fad. All I could have just done, of course, was either buy an Altaria Keylab or an Essential or even the MK3 or even a Native Instruments, of course, if I wanted to do more. So that's just what I see, of course. It's like if you ever use the same VSTs and you just know, of course, it's easy to replicate. So if you're ever a cover band, of course, and you want to try to do this standalone, of course, then you're just not able to because it doesn't provide the same system. It just doesn't have the same it just doesn't have the same qualities, of course, just like a MIDI controller or even the VSTs, virtual studio instruments. The only advantage, of course, of that, though, of course, using standalone, of course, is the drums, because I feel like the drums, you can really do a lot than a pre-programmed drums. Because if you program this with MIDI, of course, then it's obvious that you're recording with a DAW. So I feel like if I ever want to recreate something of more like a vintage sound, of course, then a vintage sound, of course, must prioritize a tape. Tape compression, of course, some tape plugins, of course, may work. But if you want to if you really want some identity, of course, something more authentic, of course, authentic with your music, of course, then I would prioritize a reel-to-reel machine, like a reel-to-reel deck. Maybe it's something, of course, like a cassette tape player. Maybe a cassette tape recorder, maybe, if you can. That's the reason why, of course, I decided to prioritize the Tascam Model 12, because it just has these things, even if they're digital. I feel more inspired, of course, using a mixer than the audio interface, and that's just how I see it as generic. So that's the reason why with Music Club, I actually have opportunities, of course, to join there, because I will gain that experience from using a pedal, maybe have my own guitar, because I have a Stratocaster HSS, which has clearly, of course, with a guitar, of course, it has like one humbucker, of course, and two single coils. Now, of course, the next thing I'm going to be investing is this. Like, what if I just decide to upgrade my guitar and get a Jazzmaster? Even though, of course, I already heard of Kurt Cobain and his Jaguar, his Mustang, and yet I'm the same person who's going to be buying a Jazzmaster for all of it. But anyways, maybe you'll see me, of course, perform that, of course, in an upcoming concert, of course. And so if you ever see me on the Music Club, then of course, just don't really expect the unexpected, because I've mentioned a hint about it. So I feel like the Music Clubs will be interesting to me, of course. And so this week, of course, I'm just gonna be reviewing some clubs, and which one, of course, I may be going, of course, next, because film clubs, as you can see, isn't really motivating me right now. Aside from Instant Film Productions, of course, filming Urine. And so so that's another thing. Before we move on to the next club, of course, I just want to mention more. I want to give a response to the film club. It's clear that I'm not really doing anything, of course, at all, because I'm just standing there, just doing nothing, and then they're filming Urine in other places, even though, of course, it's not really part of the club, of course, because they're all far away. Not far away, of course, but Branchville Park, the train station. Like, I'm always on the North Penn Station, of course, once I get home. So they're going to be filming that, of course, and so in response, if I'm not going to be doing anything, of course, let me introduce you one more thing to what they're missing. Ghost City Incorporated. Maybe this will be a company that I will start in the future. So in response to all this, of course, it's clear that I'm not doing anything. I'm just standing around there. So maybe it's best that I decide to depart. Maybe it's best that even after 2 weeks of nothing, of course, and 2 weeks of just standing there and 2 weeks of breaks, maybe, of course, it's just the best time for me to just leave the film club. And the reason, as I said, because I'm not doing anything, and even with the production company and some films productions, why do I have to be there? It's like, it's not really why do I have to be there, but it's like, what am I even doing here, of course, even after I made that commercial? I've already made this response, of course, last week, and now for the second response, maybe it's just a potential. It's just for me just saying it's time for me to departure and join some other clubs, of course, that may interest me more. Just film club. And to be honest, of course, the Panasonic Lumens G7, of course, can do a lot, but with the Sony's AV10, I just see myself as having more upgrades, of course, than the outdated cameras, of course, and the outdated equipment that a community college, of course, could offer. So I guess at the end of the day, maybe there's a lesson, of course. If there's ever a film festival, then just take advantage of it to make your own film instead. And so that's what I'm going to be starting with. So that's just what I'm going to be starting that's what I'm going to be doing in the future. So once the film festival comes in, then I will be making my own film, and who knows? It may not be about it. It's not going to be just about the loner course. It may not just be about my personal experiences. Who knows? Maybe I'll just see the reality, of course, of what I deal with, of course, every day. But that, of course, I won't be hinting much about it, of course. But otherwise, just stay tuned for Ghost City, of course, and my first production coming soon, of course, on the Essex County College's Film Festival. So that's my response right there. It's clear that I'm not doing anything, but so I'll be the partner for them, of course, and I'll be leaving the club, of course, effective after the first semester. And for the second semester, clearly, of course, the second semester for the summer is just going to be boring for me. So I won't be joining any clubs at all. So instead, of course, I'll be relying on the podcast club. Anyways, the next thing I'm going to be talking about, of course, is the podcast club. So this is where I'm currently at right now. At the podcast club, of course, and my podcast studio, of course, and really as a podder, I'm just recording my own shows, of course, and just doing whatever I have to do, of course, every day. So if I ever have an idea, of course, if I ever have a plan, then I'm going to be recording here, of course, every Monday or Friday. So here, of course, is a flyer, of course, for the podcast club. Fridays at 1 p.m., of course, at the Dash Center, of course, where you can create, record, review, edit, release, and promote. Those are just the 6 words, of course, that's on there. And there's some genres, of course, that you can look at. Some academic, cultural, gaming, music, technology, romance, food, pride, cosmetics, ASMR, even though there's sort of like ASMR videos, and so I don't, to be honest with you, what's even the point, of course, of doing ASMR, of course? What's even the point of producing an ASMR podcast? Anyways, books, art, motivational, film, business, comedy, sports, and some other things. Like my shows is just most of my show, of course, is mostly on commentary. But today, of course, is just me reviewing some things. And so I'm focused on a lot of topic. So of course, this will be more. Let's just say it's gonna be more like a consistent club. A podcast club, of course, will maybe the only club, of course, that I'll go consistently. This is because I'm recording my own show. I already have my show ready, so might as well just join the records every semester. But aside from that, of course, I'll be switching clubs around. I'll be switching clubs, of course, every semester as well. So as you can see, film club course isn't set for me. So what if I just joined the film club in the fall semester, or on the fall semester, however you just say it as. So that's what's coming up next, of course, after the summer. Because it's clear that the summer semester is already short, that I see the classes I'm attending, of course, will be boring. And with boring stuff, of course, I feel like with online classes, of course, and it's just a bunch of nothing. I just don't really see why, of course, I would join a club, of course, over the summer when I can just wait until the fall, of course, to really see some more diversity. And I used to say diversity, but now, of course, I'm just going to be saying diversity, however you pronounce it as. I don't really care, of course, who says diversity or diversity. I'm not even making sense at this point. But there you have it. So, music club, of course, is upcoming. Of course, I'll be going there in the fall. Podcast club, of course, will be consistent. Now, the next thing, of course, I'll be talking about is the poetry club. This one, of course, I feel like, of course, it's just me only making some poems. And even as a writer, of course, I have no idea whether I would feel more convinced that I can write a poem or something. So I feel like with the poetry club, it's like, it has potential, but it's like whether I would execute it well or like what I'm going to be doing there. So I guess I feel like this could be on the wait list, but it could be less likely that I'll be joining there. But who knows, of course. Maybe I'll reconsider that in the future. Now, the next one, of course, is the Essex Christian Fellowship. And I feel like if you support God, if you support the Christians, then I would highly suggest to, go to their club. Fridays at 3 to 5, of course, at the second floor, sponsored by InterVarsity in Newark. And in that case, I just want to give you guys a story, of course, because something happened, of course, during that time, and This is because I'm currently taking confirmation classes as I'm filming this episode. Remember, of course, that I'm currently filming, or even in that case, taping 2 episodes in a day. And as you can see, this is week number 5, or in that case, episode number 5. So if you haven't seen episode number 4, then, go check it out first. Anyways, I just want to give you guys a brief story time first. So, while I was at church, of course, the priest, of course, never came, of course, and so I ended up being bored. Even though, of course, I would support the church, it's like, I'm not saying that I don't have the soul for it, I don't have a heart for it. Sometimes I feel like it's my purpose, of course, like, whether I feel like I really want to go there, of course, and I have to fulfill these requirements. So it's like, that's just what I'm more concerned about. So after, like, an hour of boredom, of course, of practicing the 12... Basically, I don't even remember what happened anyway, because I actually remember back in the week, and now suddenly I don't remember anything. So let me get straight into what I'm here for, though. So, Passion of Christ, we're watching this in Spanish, and then this week, or as you can see, 2 weeks ago, they just had no idea what we're doing. This was because after, as you can see, I'm celebrating Lent. I have to honor Lent. So, just a bunch of girls, of course, decided to do this. So, a few weeks ago, there was like a dress code, not a dress code, but you're supposed to vote for like which dress you're gonna be, which color, of course, the dress should be. And I think from what I remember, it was like blue, purple, or lavender, pink, and then I think there was green. And then, like, jokingly, of course, it's like, I feel like purple, of course, and lavender, of course, would work better for me, because pink, of course, is more like a feminine color that it just doesn't really align me well, of course, with my personal needs. But, of course, it ended up, of course, the following week, it ended up that pink, of course, was the most requested color, so we all ended up just choosing to wear pink for, to dress up for the ceremony. So, in that case, if you're a male, then you have to go ahead and wear a pink tie. And in my opinion, of course, I feel like I would be stupid, of course, if I ever wore a pink tie. And I feel like it would be more embarrassing, of course, if I ever wore that, of course, in a church. Not to say, of course, that I hate church, of course, at all, and even then, of course, it's called blasphemy. That's gonna be today's word of the day anyway, because that's what I'm here to talk about. So a bunch of girls, of course, had no idea what we're doing afterwards, because we were supposed to read today's reading from the Bible. It's like nobody really wanted to read the Bible anyway. Nobody wants to read the first reading. Nobody wants to do the second reading or any of that. So they were all just joking around, of course, because they wanted to. It's like just a bunch of high schoolers from Eastside High School. But then again, I digress. I'm a college student. I'm the only college student, of course, who's still attending that class. So they're just joking around, and and it's called blasphemy because they are not even taking the word of God serious. Sometimes, of course, it does frustrate me. It just frustrates me, of course, if that ever happened. But the most frustrated person, of course, I can think of is my brother, because if he ever says something in vain, then of course, he's going to be angry with you. So in that case, of course, I feel like I support God, but I feel like I've also learned another thing. Even then, of course, even saying fake Christians, of course, fake Catholics, I say would feel more harsh, of course, if you ever mentioned that. Which in that case, the lesson is you just can't really force others, of course, even if you are religious, of course, you just can't really force others, of course, to be the same person as you. So if you ever want to be manipulated, of course, then you already know you have a red flag. And that's when next week's episode I'm going to be talking about my family, because it turns out I don't have a good relationship with my parents, and nothing, of course, out of this family, of course, is ending up well. It's clearly that's going to be a red flag where I'm going to be making an episode called, SOS, as sin, save my life and save my soul from hell. But anyways, with the Bible, of course, it can really help you. And with therapy, of course, that can also help you as well. So I highly suggest it, or I would highly recommend myself to either to condone these two things. The Bible, of course, to learn about the Word of God and the Word of Gospel, and therapy, where I can find a counselor, of course, near me and just say what I gotta say. Just don't let my family, of course, manipulate me, of course, even, make my life worse. So that, of course, I'd say it would be a more dark story, of course. I'm going to be a dark story time episode that I'll be discussing next. So, that case, of course, hopefully, of course, this club, of course, will be interesting again, because I've actually joined once. And, maybe I'll be interested to go there over the summer. If I decide not to, then it really is what it is. But like I said, of course, I just say amen because it's basically a respectful way, of course, to end the club off. And now, of course, the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the gaming anime club. So this could be another highlight potential club, of course, because this is one of the clubs that I've actually joined as well. That I may be joining over the winter again, and not this winter, of course, but the next winter, of course, after fall. But it's like I feel like this would be a waitlist as well because it just depends, of course, whether I do want to convince myself into playing video games, even if I have to focus on academics. But of course, but then again, it's basically potential, more potential than the other clubs I've mentioned before, like the Poetry Club. So they have PS5, and then there's like animes that they're watching, events and meetings, and even though of course I may not be into animes, maybe I may find something interesting, of course I may be watching because back in the spring fling, that the only thing of course that was on, of course, was about I think it was about rock. I don't even know what the name of the anime was, of course, but it involved. But of course, from what I remember, it was like it had a Gibson Les Paul, and it had a teenage girl, of course, and actually, for some reason, I don't remember the anime. I just don't even know what it was called. But then again, of course, we're just gonna move on. So as I said, Gaming Anime Club. This club, of course, may reach my potential more than the film club as well. Maybe, of course, I may film their events there, but even then, of course, I'm not really into chess at all. So it depends, of course, if I ever want to play that game or not. Even my best friend, of course, even likes Pokemon as well. So maybe, of course, if he is in college, unfortunately, he's not, but. If he were to be in college, of course, he probably could have joined the club, and maybe I will be there with him. So, as I said, that could be my high potential, of course. And so, shout out once again to Roel. If you're listening to this, of course, hi. Now, of course, we're going to be back into, now let's get back into our regular programming. Now, the last couple of courses I'm going to be featuring is the Association of Latino Professionals for America. So I saw some club photos, of course, and this is going to be on the wait list because I'm not really entirely sure what I'm going to be doing here and what I serve a purpose here, of course, as an Ecuadorian American. But I will be honest with you, with the music, of course, that Ecuadorians make nowadays, I feel like it's more mediocre. There's not really such a thing as orchestras, more than synthesized orchestras, or the more bland genres, of course, that I've heard of. Even Peru, of course, isn't really any better. It's like Peru back in the day really had better music, of course, than what they provide nowadays. And I'll talk more about that, of course, in a future episode. But for now, let me talk about the other benefits this flower has. Community engagement, professional development, career opportunities, seminars and field opportunities, networking opportunities, and career guidance. So this will be on the wait list, of course, because unless if I have a purpose to be there, and if I'm going to be gaining something as a Latino or Hispanic, as an Ecuadorian, then maybe I'll join there. But probably in a future semester. So, not this year, of course, but maybe in an upcoming semester, of course, I'll be joining there. So, if I'm fully convinced that I'll be in this club, then I'll be there. If not, then I'll not go. So, that's going to be the purpose there, of course. It's just me just trying out some clubs and see which clubs I'll be more convinced. And originally, I was going to include the 360 Art Club, but they don't really have a flyer yet. And even so, because if we want to see a flyer, of course, it's on 31330, which, of course, is the house, of course, of Essex College Television, the Media Production Technology Center. So if you ever want to see the flyers between the film club and the 360 Art Club, then make sure, of course, you're in that class, and you'll see some flyers, of course, between those clubs. But anyways, I think I've said enough about that. So ending off, of course, let me talk about my experience with the Spring Fling. So I feel like it was more like underwhelming because clearly I wasn't really doing much. I actually had a raffle ticket that I never won, and even though I was like close, I was already close enough to win. I just didn't even win anything. So at the end of the day, I ended up feeling bored. Even the podcast club that I already resided in felt a bit dead. Even though, of course, you had a motivational speaker from a female. Even though, of course, you had me. Even though you had an anonymous outcaster. And then there's like some other hosts, of course, that I may not mention, that I haven't mentioned about yet. But even if you have all of these individuals, of course, who's here to record, and even the Game Anime Club, even if you have all that, of course, apparently, of course, we're still a dead club, of course, because apparently there's not really enough members, of course, joining in yet. And if you're in film club, of course, there's into film productions, of course. And if you're me, then, as I said already, I'm going to be starting my production company very soon. But then again, I know nothing about business. So, being on the lookout for the first project from Ghost City Productions or Ghost City Incorporated. Because Ghost City Productions, of course, already exists, but it's like obscure. So avoid any affiliation. Originally, it was going to be Ghost City Radio, Ghost City Television. Instead, it's going to be called Ghost City Incorporated. So make sure, of course, you tune in for that. Of course, coming up on the film festival very soon. But I think that I said enough about it. So there are also a few clubs, of course, joining in. But out of all the clubs, of course, I've actually watched, one of the few that interests me the most were the game and anime club, and there was a volleyball club. So those two things actually interested me more. Film club had nothing at all, but otherwise I digress because there was really no purpose to even be there. So I ended up saying this: it's like I could have just stayed home, of course, and maybe wait until the students' first experience. I feel like if that event actually happens next month, maybe then of course I'll make a special episode out of it. But I feel like this episode isn't really worth anything. So let's just call this as a filler episode because this week it's just only me trying some clubs and me talking about what I've done, of course, at college. So that's all I can say. That's all I can really say for myself. And so today's word of the week is blasphemy. Remember, if some girls, of course, are joking about God, of course, if they're not taking the Bible reading study, if they're not taking the Bible study serious, then you're not real. You're just, you really need God. You really need help. That's why, of course, that's why often, of course, I just don't really see these high schoolers serious. So, I'm not really any better, but still, at least I know what I'm doing. And then, with college, of course, like I said before, hopefully I'll do something. Hopefully I'll have a purpose to live. I'll have a purpose, of course, really do afterwards. So make sure, of course, you tune in for the student first experience coming up soon, along with the film festival. But for now, I think I've said enough. And so thank you again for tuning me in, of course, and for listening to me, finding some clubs that will interest me. If you have any clubs, of course, if you really have anything to suggest, of course, here, and, make sure you tune in, make sure you comment down below what topics you want me to talk about next, or, or even follow me on XJArch24 on Instagram, of course, and talk to me, of course, if you want to. If you want to talk to me in person, then go ahead and do that. But until then, of course, I think it's enough. I'm about to go home now, of course, and just have fun. Maybe just go back and do my AI stuff. Just finish my wish list, as I said a week ago. And I'll be back again, of course, next week with a new topic, as always. And so thank you guys again for listening, and have a pleasant good evening and good afternoon and good morning. Have a pleasant good night. From all of us here at the Podcast Club, this is Jon Inahuazo signing off the air for this week. But don't worry, you'll still have Stay Your Lane tomorrow, of course, if he publishes that video out on SLAO, the Student Life and Activities Office at Essex County College. Okay, I think that's enough. See you guys next week, as always, and take care of yourselves. See ya.
This has been a production of the Essex County College Podcast Club. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.